Hi, everyone. So, today we are going to talk about the new economies of colonization and sort of how different countries begin to profit off of North America. So, we are going to see that now that there are permanent colonies in the Americas, now that those colonies are doing very well, we're going to start to see different economies start to develop, new systems develop because of colonization. So, one of the main reasons for colonization of the Americas is economic, or this want to make money, this want to become wealthy. And so, we know that there were many people, many countries who wanted to colonize the Americas because of the money it could make them, because of the resources that they might find there that they could sell to make money. Specifically, we know that people in countries wanted to find gold, silver, and basically anything else that had the possibility to make them money. And so we see that countries financed or gave money to explorers in return for part of anything these explorers found. So countries were okay giving people money to go explore, even though those countries didn't know if these explorers would be successful. Just the possibility of success led these countries to sort of make deals with these people. Countries would give them a little bit of money. These explorers would go out to try and find land, gold, silver, resources. And if they were successful, then those countries sort of got part of whatever those explorers found. And so we're going to see several countries in Europe, most notably Spain, Portugal, France, England, and the Netherlands. We're going to see many countries in Europe start to compete for overseas territory that could produce wealth. And so we're going to see these countries start to create and establish colonies that could provide those valuable resources. And most notably, the British southern colonies are mostly founded for these reasons. So the southern colonies in what would become the United States are really founded on this idea of making money, as much money as you possibly could. And so one of the new economic systems that people start to see as a result of the colonies is capitalism. Now, it won't be named capitalism for a couple hundred years, but this is really the first time we start to see the beginnings of this system of capitalism. And capitalism is an economic system. So it's a system that sort of governs money. And it's based on private ownership. So people owning things for themselves. A free market, meaning there aren't a whole lot of rules. And it's the investment of resources for profit. So capitalism, sort of at its core, is this economic system that is designed to make one person in a business sort of really, really wealthy, really, really quickly. So the relationship between capitalism and colonization sort of really starts with this idea or with this fact that governments and nobility are no longer the only people who have access to massive amounts of wealth. So we see that these colonies, they have land, even though that land is already inhabited, and resources that individuals can access. The governments and the nobility don't have as much control over the land in the colonies that they do in the sort of mother countries. So we see that land and resources are more accessible to individuals. And so individuals can begin to build their own wealth in the colonies. And we know that individuals invested in trade and exploration on their own. People were able to come to the colonies, maybe find gold, find silver, find natural resources that they could then sell. And so if these individuals are successful, they can make money and become wealthy. They can make money and become wealthy. And they can take that money that they've earned and reinvest it, sort of meaning they can sort of put it back into their business to make even more money. They might be able to hire workers so they can produce, sort of grow more crops, things like that. So we're really going to see that capitalism really starts to take a hold in the colonies, sort of especially where we think of as the eventual United States will be. So another sort of new economy that we see is the joint stock company. So we've talked about joint stock companies a few times before, but we're going to see that these joint stock companies are really influential and really important in these North American colonies. And so a joint stock company is can sort of best be described as investors, so people buy stock or part ownership in a company in return for a share of its future profits. So somebody will give a company money, that person becomes an owner of that company, and if that company makes money, then that person who gave money to the company is going to get a lot more money back than they sort of put in. And this is really similar to how a modern corporation works, how the stock market works. So this joint stock company is going to be really sort of influential. And so money invested provided funds to colonize North America. So we see joint stock companies sort of pop up in lots of different places. And it allows people to sort of combine their wealth for a common purpose. So it's really expensive to sort of go and start a colony in the Americas. So people can put their money together and sort of hope that that colony works out, because there's an increased possibility of profits, right? So if you put your money in with somebody else and then your company makes lots and lots of money, you have a possibility of becoming very, very wealthy very quickly. That being said, the risk of joint stock companies was really large. The colony could fail. You could put all of your money into this company, and then that company could fail, right? You could sort of pay for a boat with 100 or 200 people to go start a colony, but that boat might sink. You might get to the colonies and it might be really late in the growing season and you can't plant crops. We sort of see that a lot with those early colonies. So there's a really big risk that these colonies could fail. And an example that we see of a colony that is founded by a joint stock company is Virginia. So Virginia, Jamestown, that is founded by a joint stock company. So our next economy that I want us to talk about is mercantilism. And so mercantilism is this idea that a country, so a country like Spain or England, Portugal or France, in which a country believed that its power depended on its wealth, and that a nation becomes stronger by controlling trade. So it's not necessarily we have the strongest military, it's we have the most money. We have the most money. If we control trade, then we are the most powerful. We are the most powerful. Now, if you have wealth, that would allow these nations to build really strong navies. And it would allow them to purchase important goods. So countries like Spain, France, England, Portugal, they really saw wealth as a way to be the most powerful country in Europe. And so we're going to see this push for wealth is really going to increase the rivalry between nations. It's really going to increase the rivalry between nations in their sort of pursuit to get as many colonies, as much money, as much gold and silver as possible. And so the goal of every single nation that was exploring and colonizing became to get as much wealth as possible, and to become self-sufficient. And self-sufficient means sort of not needing any help to meet basic needs. So countries wanted to become self-sufficient, meaning they didn't want to have to trade with each other. They wanted to be able to do every single thing themselves. Without having to trade with any other country. Because if you're giving some of your money to another country, you're helping them become more powerful. And they didn't want to do that. And so mercantilism, countries could sort of earn wealth in two ways. The first is you can obtain as much gold and silver as humanly possible. And this is what Spain does. They are looking for gold and silver everywhere they explore. But the other thing you could do to earn wealth, is go towards a favorable balance of trade. And a favorable balance of trade is selling more goods than you buy. So if you are selling more than you buy, you are making money. And that's what England decides to do. So here we have sort of a pretty famous cartoon that sort of really shows us what mercantilism we have the mother country sort of right here sitting at the table, and then she is being served 3 platters, one of gold and silver, one of foodstuffs, and one of raw materials from her colonies. And so mercantilism at its core is actually using your colonies to make money. So these colonies serve the mother country. These colonies are doing a lot of work to help make money for the mother country. That is what mercantilism is sort of at its core. So colonies had a very specific role in mercantilism. So first of all, colonies were the supplier. They were the supplier. So colonies provided resources. Colonies provided resources to the mother country. So these mother countries don't have the same resources as the colonies. And so colonies send raw materials like lumber, cotton, and furs to the mother country. So these colonies are the suppliers. These colonies are the suppliers of goods to the mother country. And then the second role that colonies play is that of the market. Colonies provided a place to sell products. So the mother country would get all of these raw materials. They would make things like furniture, cloth, tools. And so now they have all of these finished goods, all of these finished products. And they would turn right back around and sell these goods back to the colonies, usually for a pretty high price. And the thing is that colonies were not allowed to manufacture or make goods. They had to buy them from the mother country. So the mother country could sort of set whatever price they wanted, and the colonies would have to pay. The colonies sort of didn't have a chance to look other places for these goods. They had to buy them from the mother country, which means this mother country gets really, really, really wealthy. So mercantilism, we sort of defined it as this idea that countries thought that all of their power came from their wealth, so how much money they had. And really what mercantilism is in practice, sort of what it really looks like, is it's a system of trade where colonies sell raw materials to the mother country. The mother country produces or makes different things, and then they sell those things back to the colonies. So we sort of see this cycle. We see this cycle of raw materials being sent to the mother country making things, and then sending them back to the colonies. And mercantilism is going to end up creating another kind of trade that we see develop in during this time, and that is triangular trade. And so triangular trade is a transatlantic, meaning it goes across the Atlantic Ocean. It's a trade network that connected Europe, Africa, and the Americas. And again, Mercantilism is why this triangular trade starts, So here we can see on this map, we can see the different things that are traded from Africa and the Americas. So a big part of this triangular trade is going to end up being the selling and exploitation of enslaved individuals. And so we see that triangular trade from the Americas to Europe. We would see things like sugar, coffee, tobacco, and other resources make their way from the Americas to Europe. We see that manufactured goods will make their way not only from Europe to the Americas, but also from Europe to Africa. And then the leg from Africa to the Americas were enslaved individuals. And that part of triangular trade is known as the Middle Passage. And as many as 20% of Africans die on that journey from Africa to North America. And we will go into much more detail about the Middle Passage in the next couple of days. But it's important for us to sort of realize how this trade impacts sort of all parts of the world. And even though triangular trade is really focused on Europe, Africa, and the Americas, we can also see on this map that there are other parts of the world that are going to sort of be influenced by this triangular trade. So that is just a really quick overview on some of the new economies that we see as a result of colonization. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in class.